This year went by so fast. A lot happened throughout it, and while gaming was one of my top priorities since it was something I had to invest in for a future job in the industry, I didn't get the opportunity to play as many games as I wished for. Not only that, I still wanted to play some games from my backlog, leaving some cool new releases behind. However, there were games I was so excited for that I couldn't wait for the year after. And now it's that season, the season of the awards, and having the Game Awards right around the corner has me thinking about what my game of the year is from the games that I had the chance to play. Now, from the 6 games nominated in this category, I've played 3 of them: Elden Ring, Stray, and God of War Ragnarok. They were stunning in their own way, so different from each other, and I think they were all worthy of the time I spent with them. Unfortunately, I can't talk about A Plague Tale Requiem or Horizon Forbidden West since I'm yet to play those, hopefully soon, but their quality is undeniable and they're definitely on my list. Stray was a game that sent me back to my past self days. I love smaller games and I used to play a lot of them, and Machinarium was one of my favorites. You probably know the name, but for those who don't, it was this simple point-and-click game that was full of personality from start to finish, and I couldn't unsee the similarities in Stray, especially regarding the soundtrack and how the art was handled, and with so many titles being developed with the mindset of being as huge as possible, having a game like Stray was so good for a much-needed change of pace. The game hasn't the biggest freedom out there, and you feel that you're always on track thanks to the limited traversal, but I really had a great time with it, and I didn't feel disappointed at all. However, I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise. If I had to choose a game of the year, that fight would be between Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. I played both day one, and they were part of the few games that I pre-ordered in my life. Normally I don't do that, but in this case I was so confident they would be incredible that I just did. These 2 games are very different. I can even say they are actually the opposites in some areas. If we take a look at the story and how the narrative works, both games focus on this heavily, but the way that is presented is what sets them apart. Ragnarok has a really good story that is more on the center of things, the cutscenes are excellent, and the moments you spend traveling through the realms are perfect because in those sections there's so much character development, and they are arguably as important as the main story cutscenes are. Elden Ring, on the other hand, is more subtle in this aspect and takes the usual From Software direction of storytelling present in past games. You know, lore in item descriptions, level design that helps a lot with the world building, and the vague but flavorful information provided by the NPCs you interact with. But this difference in storytelling between them also has an impact on gameplay. Elden Ring is a very cryptic game, one that deliberately chooses to tell as little as it can, giving us the freedom to explore its world on our own terms. Something rare for an open world these days. It just drops you in it and expects you to figure out all of the stuff during your journey. This comes with a two-sided coin, of course, because being somewhat lost can be frustrating at times, but it can also feel like you accomplished something greater, and I can say the latter was way more prominent. God of War is so contrasting in comparison. It's a game that is quite open-ended, but when it comes to puzzles and traversal, the characters are quick to point out what the solution is or give you advice about what you need to do, or at least look at so you can figure things faster and proceed forward. This is the result of always having companions with you, since in real life, if you were with someone, they wouldn't just stand there waiting for you. They would try to help you as much as they could, and I believe this is why they did it this way, and also because they didn't want the player to be stuck in these sections. But that's another point. In Ragnarok, most of the time you're with someone, and it's great. As I said before, having these conversations between characters are some of the best story moments, and for me, one of the best parts of the entire game. The subjects are never the same, and it's so well written that the banter between them had me laughing out loud sometimes. And because these characters have certain personalities and are not silent even when they are alone, you don't feel like it because they talk to themselves. In Elden Ring, however, you can't help but feel like you're the loneliest person in the world. Even when you talk to someone, you feel that way. It's actually funny how a game can make you feel this lonely, and this mustn't be perceived as a concern. This is From Software's identity, and it works especially well here. While Ragnarok is awesome for the interactions with the companions, Elden Ring's biggest strength is its contemplative nature while you are exploring the lands between on your own. And giving this game exploration music, something that didn't happen with Dark Souls, was a really nice decision that helped with the idea of us being in this grand adventure. Both games have excellent combat that I'm not even going to compare, but they are immensely fun to play, and because they have different systems you get satisfied in different ways too. There is a big variety of enemies in Elden Ring, and it's just on another level because it is way bigger than Ragnarok, but the bosses are brilliant in both. In the end, it all comes to how rewarded I felt playing each one, and they did something amazing. Elden Ring has probably the best reward system tied to gameplay I've ever experienced, and it's this aspect of it that made me so curious about the lands between and kept encouraging me to explore everything without leaving any stone unturned. When I realized that some important items were attached to even the smallest of enemies, I just couldn't ignore them, and suddenly I was fighting every monster on my way since I was expecting something significant to come out of it. This was so addicting and made the open world so much more interesting and not empty as it seemed at first. It's very well done, because a big enemy doesn't necessarily mean a big prize, and all I can think of is Christmas, because the biggest box may not have the most meaningful present to you. God of War was also very enjoyable. The combat feels great when mastered, the level design and puzzles were a highlight, but the most important reward you get from it is the story itself, no doubt. The story is what constantly makes you want to play more, and it never disappointed me. It actually was this case of no matter where I stopped playing, I couldn't wait for what was happening next. And if I played it during 2 weeks instead of 1, the wait would be way more painful. I've done a video dedicated to it, but the marketing for this game was absolutely exceptional, and one more reason for the story to be this fulfilling. And I must say, my eyes were wet in a lot of moments. Not only because of the emotional parts, but because when a piece of media is exquisitely crafted and achieves something monumental, it has this intense effect on me, and I just can't hold it in. The same happened with Elden Ring. So, Game of the Year. Well, to be fair, I can't choose one. That's probably the best thing about it. Having video games this impactful on the same year is incredible, and I stated so much about what I love about them that I don't even want to put pressure on myself to choose one over the other. I'm just glad that I had the chance to play them, and I think we don't need to take the Game Awards so seriously in that regard. I primarily watch the show because of the new announcements and because I like to see the developers having their hard work recognized in the industry. I also like the Game Awards because normally in the nominees there are video games that not everyone is aware of, and that's super cool if you are looking for something new that wasn't on your radar. But that's it. I won't be annoyed if games I don't enjoy as much win some categories, and I won't be yelling about my favorite ones taking the prize because I've already made those decisions myself, and that's what is important to me. I mean, not quite yet. 2022 isn't over yet. This week we still have the Callisto Protocol, which I'm really looking forward to play, and until the year ends, I will be trying new games for sure. I still want to play Vampire Survivors when I have the time. I've heard so much cool stuff about it, but of course your picks may not be the same as mine, and that's what I would love to know. So feel free to share in the comments what were your favorite games, the games you still want to play before 2022 ends, if you have a definite game of the year, or if you're as indecisive as I am and just can't choose. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be waiting for you on the next one.